Good evening to all members of GICA, members of Ahmedabad Management Association, and all other guests who are present in today's exciting seminar on snow leopards, the spirit of mountains. So, for today's session, we have along with us Shri M. Thanarson, Ahmedabad Municipal Commissioner. We also have along with us Shri Keshav Verma sir, Dr. Kaustubh Sharma, and Miss Madina Tashtan Bekova. So these are the guests and speakers for the today's evening. And now I would like to request Shri Yatindra Sharma, past president of Ahmedabad Management Association, to deliver his welcome address.
Yeah, good evening. On behalf of GICA and Ahmedabad Management Association, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all to this wonderful evening on a very interesting talk, that is snow leopard, the spirit of mountain, the elusive snow leopard, which we are going to listen to, and it is going to be unraveled by our esteemed speakers. Our Municipal Commissioner of Ahmedabad, Mr. Thanarson, Shri Keshav Verma, our very, very dear patron of Ahmedabad Management Association, as well as, I should say, a friend of Ahmedabad city, Mr. Kaustubh Sharma, Director, International Leopard Trust, Ms. Madina Tashtabenkova from Global Snow Leopard Foundation, Shri Bakulbhai Desai, President GICA, Mr. N.K. Patel, ladies and gentlemen. While we talk about snow leopard, which is elusive one, but one of the most important pointer for our comfortable and I should say a sustained living is presence of snow leopard in mountains. We have been passing through trauma and tribulations and trials of climate change, and the entire world is witness to it. And one of the important element of ecology, which will give a sustained living for humankind, is going to be snow-capped mountains. And these are now necessity and well understood by all of us. And one of the pointer which we can easily find a comfort in our mind, if we are able to find snow leopards in these high mountains. It is ecology which is sustained to this animal living on such a high altitude. I mean, the awareness of people, preservation of this species, and also, I should say, a sensitization of this particular species in terms of developing tourism, developing preservation of such fauna and flora is going to take us to a long way in terms of better, sustainable, and I should say a climate change to the least. The goal project, Snow Leopard, is to safeguard and conserve India's unique natural heritage of this altitude wildlife, and for that I think Shri Keshav Verma, Mr. Kaustubh Sharma as well as Ms. Madina are going to appraise us with lot of information, and I should say that this is going to be a very interesting session. And with that, I thank you all for being with us. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite Shri Bakul Desai, President of GICA, to provide a brief introduction about the topic.
Good evening, friend. Most of the points already Mr. Sharma has already spoken, but I would like to quote one saying that water is the elixir of life. पानी जीवन का अमृत है. And how the snow leopard is indicative to the water resources of all world and our India also. Coming to the topic, the majestic snow leopards are spread across 2 million square kilometers in the high mountains of Central Asia and South Asia, and their presence indicates the healthy ecosystem. They are deeply woven into the culture fabric of at least 12 countries. The snow leopards are found in cold mountains habitat. They have thick fur on their bodies, feet and toes, which enable them to adjust better to the surrounding and protect them from cold. Healthy population of snow leopards indicate good health of the ecosystem that is inhabit. In India, snow leopards are found high up into the Himalayas, the source of most of the fresh water, and three perennial rivers, the Ganga, Yamuna and Brahmaputra. Lifeline of 500 million Indians, it can be said that without the snow leopards, the Himalayan ecosystem will be negatively affected, and this will impact the health of these rivers too, source of our fresh water, without which life is, as we know, it appears impossible to visualize, and that is why water is the elixir of life. However, the snow leopard face the array of challenges like illegal wildlife trading, killing of shepherds in self-defense by protecting their livestock, poorly planned infrastructure. Infrastructure is also playing a good role to save the snow leopards. And the ever-present threat to climate change, all risk for their survival. By combining the expertise of various stakeholders, we can ensure you the future where snow leopards continue to regain supreme in their mountainous range. I am sure that this session by esteemed speaker of today will provide an impressive insight on snow leopards. Thank you very much.
So, now with this introduction about the topic, I would briefly introduce all the three speakers that we have today evening. So I will start with Dr. Kaustubh Sharma. So Dr. Kaustubh Sharma is the Director of Science and Conservation at the International Snow Leopard Trust. He is a physicist who turned into wildlife zoologist. He has roamed the rugged terrains of India, Bhutan, Kyrgyzstan, China, Mongolia and Tajikistan, studying the elusive snow leopards in their natural habitat. Other than being a scientist, Dr. Sharma helps transforming conservation efforts across 12 snow leopard range countries into policy and partnership through his role as the international coordinator of the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program. He has lived and worked in Central India's Panna Tiger Reserve as a PhD student for 5 years before heading to the high mountains from where the snow leopards live. And he has also delivered about 150 engaging talks and 50 scientific publications across the world. When he is not focusing on snow leopards, he aims his equipment on stars, galaxies and nebulae as an amateur astrophotographer. So please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Kaustubh Sharma, who will be our first speaker for the evening today. Yeah. And now before we hand over the session to sir, I would request Shri Yatindra Pandya Sharma sir to felicitate Shri M. Thenarson, Municipal Commissioner of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. And now I would like to invite Shri Deepak Patel, Vice President of GICA, to welcome Dr. Kaustubh Sharma. I would now like to request Shri Apurva Thakashi, Vice President of GICA, to welcome Ms. Madina. I would now like to request Shri Saurin Shah, Treasurer of GICA, to provide a live sapling to Shri Keshav Verma, sir. So Kaustubh sir, now it's all yours.
नमस्कार पहले तो आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आज यहाँ आने के लिए यस दैट्स अ ग्रेट आइडिया और मैं पहले क्षमा चाहूँगा कि मैं आज इंग्लिश में बोलूँगा पर अगर हम लोगों के बोलने के बाद आपके कोई प्रश्न होते हैं तो उनका ज़रूर कोशिश करेंगे जवाब देने की Is that enough? Sufficiently dark? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Now, in February this year, I was on my way to Samarkand to attend a conference of parties from multiple countries, more than 150 countries were going there. And I was going there with my colleagues. One of them, Madina, is very much here. Keshavji had come separately. I made a small post on Facebook just showing off my outstanding team. And a Facebook friend asked me, what kind of game is this? Saving cats and taking selfies? Who pays the bills for all your selfies? I joked back saying that my phone doesn't make me pay for taking selfies. I then sent him some details about conservation financing and hoped that it would keep him busy for the time being. Jokes apart, the fact that a majority of the world still does not consider biodiversity conservation to be a mainstream activity shows our failing. By our failing, I mean us ecologists, the boring scientists. It shows our failing as communicators. People often think biodiversity conservation is a hobby than something that affects their own existence. And none of this is their fault. As a banker friend of ours once said in a very animated way, that we sell lies. We know we are selling lies. People who are buying those lies also know that we are selling lies, but they still buy it. You guys are trying to do something which does not have to do much with your own pockets, but you still are unable to sell your ideas. Clearly, you guys are not doing something right. And I think that's where we need to, and I'm quoting Mr. Keshav Verma here, we need to change the conversation about conservation. Honestly, when I meet people and I tell them, you go and meet friends in a party or in an event or wherever, you start a conversation, you say that, they ask you, so what do you do? I tell them, I'm a snow leopard scientist. So I work with snow leopard conservation. They say, oh, snow leopards, wow. But still, what do you do? I've just... So then I tell them about the Snow Leopard Trust, that I work with this organization which builds community partnerships, works with communities, and tries to prioritize conservation of snow leopards on these mountains. They say, great, but still, what do you do? Then I tell them about Tailung. I tell them that I work with a species where a super villain, Tailung, which was in Kung Fu Panda, is able to do exactly what a real snow leopard is able to do. It is almost as if the snow leopard has been custom designed by evolution to survive in some of these most treacherous mountains, whether it is taking long leaps, walking vertical walls, surviving in such thin air that we ourselves will not be able to do everything, whatever we want. They say, still, great, but then tell us, what do you do? So then what I tell them is, okay, I'm going to start from Bhopal. Bhopal is a city where I grew up. And no, there are no snow leopards there. It's a flat landscape with a few hills. And I take them a little further. I hope it takes us there. Yep, I take them further up to Kyrgyzstan, where several years ago, I was supposed to go for a field trip to that little country. And that's where both Madina and I are coming right now. And I take them to this place called the Sarichat Ertash Reserve in the central Tien Shan landscape. I tell them that this is a beautiful landscape, which is one of the prime snow leopard habitat. And I was making a field trip there after a long time, where for the first time, I was very excited that I wouldn't have to hike those mountains, but instead I would get to ride a Pajero. Now, if you're wondering that Pajero is a 4-wheel drive, no, that's not the Pajero I'm talking about. In fact, the horse that I was supposed to ride was named Pajero. And that's a Pajero. And my friend is riding another horse who we called Michael Jackson. I'll tell you later why we called him Michael Jackson. But anyway, our trek was almost 16 kilometers. It took us 4 hours to climb up a pass, cross over, get into this spectacular landscape. All this time, we were able to look around because Pajero was taking care of safety and logistics and everything. I was just looking around and taken care of. We saw a lot of snow leopard food, which is species such as argali. And these horses, they're like all-terrain vehicles. They know where it's dangerous. They know how to ride. And of course, you can really enjoy and observe wildlife around you. I think the survey took, once we were there, we really saw a lot of animals. That guy, we used to call him Michael Jackson because whenever my colleague Kuban would try to ride it, it started doing moonwalking backward. And that's why we started calling Michael Jackson and Pajero both on a field trip. Anyway, moving forward, the purpose of our field trip was to set up some automatic cameras. These automatic cameras are like minions who take care of everything. If you set up a camera like this, in a few days, you will be rewarded by an image like this. We didn't have to set up 1 or 2 cameras. We had to set up 40 cameras in an area which is roughly twice the size of Ahmedabad city. Over the next 3 months, these cameras would allow animals take their own selfies without them having to worry about anything else. So that's what one of the part of the work was. But I have to tell you this interesting part that when we started to come back, we had to set up one last camera. And soon after setting up that camera, the weather started to turn ominous. It started snowing, and soon enough, we found ourselves in one of the worst snowstorms I've ever seen. We were not in a very difficult situation, but I think we soon realized that we were walking in more than 1 meter of snow. But these horses are like, as I said, all-terrain vehicles with a great mind and a great sense. My colleague Kuban, he started to look like a snowman, and we were taking selfies. We were a bit scared, but we were still taking selfies because we had family to show some of these pictures too. I almost started, I ended up wearing a snow crown, and had I been 1,000 times prettier, I would have looked like a beauty queen. But no, it wasn't the case. My horse started to look like T-800 of Terminator 2. And such was the instance. But anyway, the snowstorm lasted 4 hours. Once the snowstorm was over, Pajero and I by then had a telepathic communication going on. We were able to communicate with each other without really having to use any of the reins. Our cameras, the little minions out there, in the meanwhile would be taking hundreds and thousands of pictures about snow leopards and their behavior. For example, in this video, which is not very bright, there is a snow leopard which goes down and kills a marmot and brings it back to its penthouse-like building. So then I explained to them, okay, this is the kind of work we do, where every work day is a different day. You make friends, you travel to some of the most incredible landscapes, you wrestle, you play with children, and such is what a snow leopard ecologist's life is. That's when they say, that's a very exciting job. And I say, yes, that's how I wanted to start. Anyway, coming back to it, as I mentioned, the snow leopard lives in some of the world's highest mountain ranges. They have an exceptional ability to melt in the background. So much so that if you look carefully in this image, there is an ibex, which is a mountain goat. And this ibex is getting it all completely wrong where the snow leopard is, because there is a snow leopard in this image, but it's so beautifully camouflaged, you can barely see it. If any of you sees it, just raise your hand. You really deserve a prize. You can qualify as a good ibex. But yes, some of you have got it right. Did you get it right? Who all got it right? Well done. Congratulations. Yes, so that's where the snow leopard was, and that's where the ibex was. This ibex was lucky that the snow leopard realized that it's standing right next to a cliff and it didn't charge at it. But I'm going to show you another incredible footage. where this Uriel, which is another mountain ungulate, was. Okay, let me start the video. Now, this is how a snow leopard typically hunts. This Uriel was slightly injured, and the snow leopard had locked its eyes at it 24 hours before. It kept trying to find the right opportunity, and when it found that opportunity, it chased it down and, well, came down and picked up and took home its pound meat. Just watch this slowly. The reason I show this video is you watch it closely, you will see the kind of maneuvers the animal is able to make at such great slopes. These are 80 degrees slopes that he's running at such speed. Look at the way the tail's wagging from left to right, balancing, working as a rudder, making sure that it's able to have the full footing on the ground. And at some point, it clearly knew that the Uriel is going to lose its footing, and that's exactly what happened. The Uriel lost its footing, and then this fell. It just shows these snow leopards are like the hunting machines of these mountains. No wonder snow leopards are only found in mountains, and they are the only big cat which is restricted to mountains. Tigers are from mountains to plains to even swamps. Leopards everywhere. Pumas, jaguars, they all have a wide range of habitat. Snow leopards are strictly restricted to these high altitude mountains. And of course, as an apex predator of this range, it does represent the health of the ecosystem. We often call it the thermometer of the health of the mountains, and I'll come back to it a little later again. Now, to be able to make that kind of a hunting effort, a snow leopard has to be trained very well. What do you do when you have to be trained well? Your teachers spend a lot more time with you. And in this case, snow leopard mothers are the teachers. Of all the cats, starting from a little jungle cat to the tiger, snow leopard mothers spend the maximum time with their kids, with their cubs. And probably one of the reasons could be that they have to do that because they have to make sure that the cubs are trained enough to be able to survive in those treacherous mountains. And just to give you a clear example, look here, all the cats listed on from left to right, the snow leopard spends 21 months. Even the tiger doesn't spend more than 18, 19 months with their cubs, whereas the tiger is almost 5 times or 6 times the size of the snow leopard. Now, if I just move the cats on the age at which the cub is weaning away, and I plot it with respect to weight, you will notice the snow leopard is an outlier. Clearly, there is a lot more that the snow leopard needs to train its youngsters. And in this case, the snow leopard mother is the trainer and the teacher at the same time. She's spending a lot more time training and teaching the cubs to be able to become successful hunters. The other remarkable feature about snow leopards is their large ranges. A single male may use an area roughly as big as Manhattan, or if I may put it in perspective, one Ahmedabad can have only 2 male snow leopards territories. That's how much area one snow leopard requires. Some individuals may even use areas twice or even thrice the size of Ahmedabad city. There was a snow leopard which was collared somewhere in Pakistan, and it traveled between Pakistan and Afghanistan, covering 1,400 square kilometer area that one cat was covering. With such large home ranges, there are less than 1% of the world's protected areas which can have a viable snow leopard population, which means the whole idea of let's protect snow leopards in protected areas, create a tiger reserve or a snow leopard reserve, and you protect it there, it's not going to work because you will have to invest much bigger amount of resources to be able to do that, and that's practically going to be impossible. Moreover, if you look carefully, the gray patch here is a 100-kilometer band around international borders. 1/3 of the snow leopard populations across their distribution ranges within 100 kilometers of international borders, and it moves between countries without passports or visas. That clearly makes it the ambassador of the high mountains. Now, whether it's the head of a country or a taxi driver or a panwala or a chaiwala, the first question they ask you, or the second or third question they ask you the moment they learn that you tell them that you work with snow leopards is, oh, kitne hai? How many are there? And I assure you that by the end of 2024, we will be able to tell you how many there are in the world. India has already done a good job. We've already been able to come up with a number of roughly around 700 snow leopards in India. But there's an incredible initiative which is going on at this point for the last 4.5 years called Population Assessment of the World's Snow Leopards, which stands for PAWS. And in this initiative, it's a remarkable initiative because it's got governments, NGOs, universities, individuals, experts, everyone come together and unanimously working in a unified way to come up with snow leopard populations. But for now, with whatever numbers we know, let's imagine one snow leopard is a grain of rice. The total number of snow leopards in the whole world will fit in half a cup of in half a cup. So half a cup of rice is how many snow leopards there are. Now just compare it with the number of humans. Imagine if one person was a grain of rice, we are talking about 700,000 full cups. That's how many people, that's how few snow leopards. Dramatically, remarkably different populations of the two. You would ask, why so few? And we really did not know a lot about snow leopards until very, very recently. It's only now, and by recently, I mean literally 2 months ago. 2 months ago, we were able to conduct a fascinating research, unlocking the genomic, snow leopard genome, and we managed to find out that even 5 lakh years ago, 500,000, 500,000 years ago, there were just about 10 to 15,000 snow leopards in the world, which means that we are not in an extremely bad situation right now. Yes, it's less than half, it's still precarious, and it's high amount of risk, but even 5 lakh years ago, there may not have been too many snow leopards. And that also indicates that it's a very delicate landscape. It doesn't have high productivity. The grass is always going to be scarce. The pastures are always under stress. So the populations can only support a small number of population. And what's even more remarkable than the small population was that despite armed conflicts, despite a lot of tensions between many of the countries where snow leopards are, they have managed to remain connected. So a snow leopard in the far end of Mongolia is not very different from the snow leopard in Bhutan or in Pakistan. So they still have some sort of a connectivity that's maintained. And maybe it's because of the inaccessibility of these mountains for us humans that the species have still managed to remain connected, which is a fascinating little thing, which is something that we need to keep on working towards maintaining as much as we can. Now, since we are talking about some of the threats, like all fascinating species, snow leopards are also threatened. IUCN, the International Union on Conservation of Nature, classifies it as a species which is vulnerable to extinction. To begin with, all threats faced by snow leopards are human-induced. Whether it is, and I'll just list out a few, people use their beautiful skin to, in a pursuit of the desire of wearing or gifting something exotic, or owning something that adds to your status symbol. Incidentally, unlike most other species like the tiger and rhinoceros, the illegal trade in snow leopard has multiple destinations across the world. And some of the most remarkable and unlikely destinations were the US and Europe. Afghanistan had one of the biggest challenges that a lot of the US soldiers were taking snow leopard skins being sold to them on the streets and taking them to the US without realizing that it's illegal. It's only then when some organizations in Afghanistan started training those soldiers saying that please do not buy these, it's illegal, that they realized, we shouldn't be doing that. Clearly indicates us at the lack of awareness, lack of knowledge that we're still dealing with. And this is not even 10 years old, the story I'm talking about. The only good thing with snow leopard illegal wildlife trade, it shouldn't be a good thing, but basically the idea is that most snow leopards are killed opportunistically. There's still not enough demand for the kind of penalties that one faces for snow leopards to be proactively pursued and killed. Most of the times, it's angry herders who have lost a livestock or a few livestock overnight or over time, they get angry, they kill the snow leopard, and now they have a dead snow leopard. What to do? They try to find a buyer who can buy and take them. But then the entire illegal network, whether it's contraband or illegal wildlife trade, it's such a dynamic system that things can change overnight. In 2002, things changed overnight, and tiger trade had become super organized with high demand coming from China. So far, it's not the case with snow leopards, but these two skins, one found in Delhi, one found in Kyrgyzstan, both had something remarkably similar. Both of them were taxidermied or skinned in a very peculiar way. I'll not get into the details. In a very particular way, which points to a demand coming from Middle East. Nobody knew why there was a demand in the Middle East, but suddenly there was a demand which started coming from Middle East. So these are very sensitive markets. One has to constantly keep an eye on them. In some countries, animals are hunted. Many countries, they're hunted for raising revenue. If done the right way, it can be a great conservation tool. If done the wrong way, it can completely cause disaster. Overhunting is a problem most of the snow leopard range is facing. Not hunting of snow leopard per se, but hunting of snow leopard food. So if you're killing snow leopard food, then the snow leopard will not have enough to sustain. They already have been very few, just about 10,000, 15,000 many years ago. So you can imagine any further suppression on their prey can cause havoc to their populations. We all need infrastructure and economic development. However, when poorly planned, it's not only adding to avoidable risks to the investor, but also leads to massive destruction to habitat and biodiversity. Given the remoteness of the habitat, it was not even considered to be a threat about 15 years ago, but currently poorly planned infrastructure is one of the most serious threats that the snow leopard habitats face. And I'm highlighting repeatedly, it's poorly planned. Plan it well, it's a great thing. Plan it poorly, it can be a disaster. There's a minor difference between the two, and if that difference can be addressed, infrastructure is great for the snow leopard habitat because those people living there also need to see development. Same goes with the case of mining, where snow leopard mountains, once they're mined, they can't grow. You cut down a forest will grow back. You cut down a mountain will not grow back. So again, when you're mining, where you're mining, I think one has to be able to do appropriate decisions, and there are tools available out there to make those decisions. Roads have already started to become source of direct mortality in the form of road kills. Human movement and things such as tourism, we're all talking about tourism. I'll talk about tourism. Tourism can be a great tool, but again, done the wrong way, human movement can bring a lot of problems. In this case, human movement is closely associated with garbage. We are known to bring garbage wherever we go. And garbage facilitate unnatural feral dog populations. The increase in the population of dogs in some of the snow leopard habitats is astounding. They are now a bigger threat to people's livestock than snow leopards and wolves put together, which means the feral dogs are killing more livestock as wild creatures than snow leopards and wolves collectively are doing. That's a challenge which has just come up, and people are trying to figure out how to address it. Not to mention disease transmission and added pressure on the habitat. People often ask, what does climate change do? Where do you put climate change as a threat to snow leopards? I start by saying climate change is not a threat to snow leopards. It's the mother of all threats. And the reason I say that is because every threat that I mentioned about right now, each of those threats interact in a different way with climate change, and each of them get amplified dramatically. I'll just give you a little example here. We know temperatures are changing rapidly globally. The snow leopard habitat, which we also sometimes call as the third pole, there's a North Pole, there's a South Pole, and there is a third pole, which is the glaciers, which store somewhere around 7,000 trillion liters of water. That's warming up twice as fast as the rest of the northern hemisphere. So coming to it, yes, snow leopards do live from minus 40 degrees Celsius to plus 40 degrees Celsius in some parts of the range during certain times. But That's not going to kill them. They're not coral reefs. What will kill them is something completely different. We are seeing a retreat in glaciers. This is a glacier image from, I think it's 1994. And just look what has happened in 2021. 25 years are less than our own lifespan. And that's how much glaciers have already retreated. Climate change is already increasing the frequency of extreme events such as Zud. In Mongolia, there's an event where the winter is so harsh, thousands. This year, 5.2 million, which is 52 lakh livestock have died just because of extreme winter in Mongolia, across Mongolia. Several such things are going to happen at a much greater frequency. What these challenges will do is they will affect human populations that will respond by migrating to greener pastures, getting forced to change livelihood options, and thus in many cases lead to more human-wildlife interaction and lower acceptance to negative or to conflict situations. Now, this is an interesting nexus I really want to talk about. Think about the glaciers which are melting. Now, these glaciers have been frozen for several hundreds of thousands of years. Now, when they're going to melt, they are obviously going to bring pathogens. There will be bacteria coming along with them. There will be some viruses coming along with them. And our bodies will know nothing about them. They are not prepared. A million years, we've forgotten everything. Now, we all know what this one little COVID-19 virus did, only because we did not know how to deal with it. With people getting pushed closer to more remote areas due to unpredictable and rapidly changing weather conditions, climate change is going to lead to more conflict with snow leopards as a direct consequence, and coupled with poorly planned infrastructure, it's going to drive up poaching, it's going to drive up illegal wildlife trade. And then the nexus between illegal wildlife trade, disease transmission, linear infrastructure, they're all going to make things extremely complicated, and they're going to cause a much stronger level of devastation than we are facing at this point in time. And the reason I keep talking about this is because these threats are not just to the snow leopards or biodiversity, they have cascading impacts on us, our well-being and livelihoods as well. And it's not just metaphorically. I'm not just saying it's a cool thing to say that, wildlife goes and we go. Of course, there is research that we just heard about where your working conditions can also improve your efficiency. Let me explain this with the story of this little girl called Kaniki. Now, Kaniki's family lives in the Tian Shan mountains of Kyrgyzstan. Her family earns a meager 150,000 rupees in an entire year. In Kyrgyzstan, the disparity is not so much. So, yes, they are in a remote area and they make roughly 1.5 lakhs per year. Kaniki's family also lives in an area which is home to some of the highest densities of the world's snow leopards. But Kaniki and her family receive what we call as ecosystem services such as water, fodder, fuel, herbs, and so on, whose plain market value as per the local market is worth 12 lakhs. So a family earns 1.5 lakhs, but they receive services worth 12 lakhs for free every year. Now, do we really factor this 12 lakhs of an income when we are planning the so-called poorly planned development in the neighborhood that will destroy Kaniki and her family's access to all of these services? We usually don't. We still are trying to figure out to make these values make sense, but we are not doing that yet. The mountains of Central Asia and South Asia, as I mentioned, they store 7,000 trillion liters of water, and more than 1 billion people in the world depend on it. Now, if you look at the rivers that are originating from these mountains, you will realize that they are supporting a large proportion of human population downstream. So you might be in Ahmedabad, you might be in Lucknow, you might be living in Beijing, or you might be living in Tashkent, where you don't have snow leopards next to you, but you are dependent on the water that's coming from these mountains that are being protected in a way, or that are being whose health is being indicated by these snow leopards. So the idea is the mountains that Akaniki, Asalma, Tashi, Anjali or Nadia and the snow leopards, they live in those mountains, and that water comes to us, and that's the elixir of life that the speaker before me had also mentioned about. And I'm not even talking about the role of these mountains as the carbon sinks that keep our planet's climate or part of our planet's climate in control. Clearly, the snow leopard is not just a beautiful species. It has inspired artists, poets, storytellers, folklores, and even governments over the years. They are the ambassadors of transboundary collaboration, and they are the custodians of the mountains, as I said, that provide water and ecosystem service to humanity. They also interface very closely with people and their livelihoods, which is why it's not surprising that when we conserve the snow leopard, we are, through, of course, the right approaches of community-based conservation approach, we are addressing not just 1 or 2, but 10 to 13 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that have been set by UNDP, by the United Nations. I'll quickly change gears into, I've just been talking about what's going on, what snow leopards are all about, but then what do we do? Coming back to a little bit of that. To conserve snow leopards, let's be very clear that not a single penny that comes for snow leopard conservation goes to the pocket of the snow leopard. They're far more capable than any of us to be able to hunt and get their own food. Every pie, every little penny, every little paisa that is raised for snow leopard conservation goes to the people who share their spaces, goes to the rangers who protect their spaces, goes to those women who are forced to live under difficult situations because of the remoteness of those habitat. It all gets invested in people. What we do is we follow a 4-pronged approach, and that's how we work. We do research, and research is broadly divided into 2 parts. We do biodiversity research to try to understand what snow leopards need, what its prey requires, how its habitat's changing, or what's the habitat like. And then we try to understand the socioeconomics, attitudes, and situation analysis of the local communities that interface with snow leopards. We use all this generated knowledge to develop and design conservation programs that are targeted at reducing those threats that I just mentioned about. In one community, we might create corrals where we are predator proofing them so that a snow leopard cannot walk inside. In another community, we will work with the local village to create a livestock insurance program so that if someone loses a livestock, it does not affect their livelihood, and there is the insurance pot which is able to support them. In some communities, we are working towards developing snow leopard friendly enterprise such as tourism, honey production, cheese, Kashmir cheese, and other things. In other places, we are working with communities to vaccinate livestock, because if people are losing too much of their livestock to diseases, they'll have very little tolerance to that 1 or 2 livestock that a snow leopard or a wolf will kill. And that's what we're doing in some of these communities. We also reward rangers for their bravery every year, and we plan to do it perpetually by investing. And this is something where the experts from another sector, which we absolutely had no clue about, come valuable. We invested in a sustainable trust fund that has grown from roughly around $1 lakh to around 5.6 lakh US in the last 10 years, despite having paid cash rewards to more than 100 rangers in the last 10 years. The third component, I've just spoken about research and conservation. The third component that we invest in is capacity building and awareness building. Training, workshops, awareness talks, conferences help spread the word about what we do. My presence here, Mr. Verma and Madina's presence here serves one of the same purposes. We engage with frontline rangers, community members, school children to help improve their capacity. And we also invest in building awareness by engaging citizens of the world. 4 years ago, something very dramatic happened, and I'm just going to show you a 30-second video. Forgive me for being a little narcissistic, but it's a very fascinating thing. Okay, no audio. How do I get audio?
Can protect what we can't see.
Snow leopards are almost impossible to find, but we need to know where they are because they are threatened. Our camera traps allow us to have an eye in the mountains, taking thousands of pictures. Microsoft AI scans through all these images and separates snow leopards from everything else. In 10 minutes instead of 10 days, it gives us time to do better research and save this threatened species.
So for some reason, Microsoft decided to do an ad campaign with us and gave snow leopards a visibility of what they call as impressions of 1 billion in just about 3 months. Something that was completely impossible for a small organization like ours to ever do. But such initiatives always help. And And lastly, we appreciate however efficient we may become, there's no way we will ever be able to match the resourcefulness and capacity of the governments in its ability to scale up all the work that we do. And that's where the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program is building a constituency for snow leopards to be prioritized in policy development and implementation. Just before I end, people often ask, what can we do? And I'll allude to my answer here by quickly listing out what snow leopard conservation needs. To begin with, snow leopard conservation needs resources. An organization like ours typically raises 60% of revenue from individual donors and the rest from grants. We need technological innovation, where you just saw AI, drones, radio collars, artificial intelligence, and camera traps. They're all helping us understand snow leopards better. It needs transboundary cooperation, because if you're saving a snow leopard in Nepal and it goes into China, it gets killed, your efforts are not going to be worth it. It needs awareness, because out of sight is out of mind, and which is why we're very thrilled with the advent of snow leopard tourism in many parts of the world, including India, China, Kyrgyzstan, and Mongolia. But these initiatives also need a lot of resources and investment. And it needs political support, which is why Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program proactively brings together representatives from many of the range countries, all the snow leopard range countries. Many of them may have had, despite many of them having had armed conflicts. And it needs partnerships with the corporate and industry sector. Yes, CSR is important, but even more important is the value that each of you learned person here brings in as a leader in your sector, be it a banker, a politician, an IT specialist, an entrepreneur. Conservation needs all hands on board. And to exemplify that, it does not require one to be a boring scientist like me who has spent 40 minutes talking in a monologue. Forgive me for that, but I was told to speak for 40 minutes, so I had to go for 40 minutes, which is where I'm very excited that I get an opportunity to segue to the two next speakers, who I'm grateful are going to speak after me, so that they will cover up for all the poor presentation skills and all the boring stuff. From a senior IAS officer to the director of World Bank to championing the cause of snow leopards, there are not enough words that describe why this gentleman here plays such an important role in snow leopard conservation, despite not being a biologist. In contrast, Madina, until a couple of years ago, was working at the front desk of a golf course, and she was helping train naive people like me to how to swing a club. Today, she's passionate about snow leopards and doing what she does best, but her energies are focused towards snow leopard conservation. I believe Madina speaks next, and Keshavji comes towards the end to make sense of all the gibberish that I have thrown at you. But if any of you have questions at a later point in time, please do let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Dr. Sharma, thank you very much. So we understand from rubbing shoulders with the snow leopards at a mere meters distance to featuring in Microsoft advertisement on artificial intelligence, your experience are truly at an intersection of passion, dedication, and innovation. And with this, I would like to provide a brief introduction of Miss Madina, and then we would like to invite her for a presentation. So Ms. Madina is an event and logistic coordination specialist at the Secretariat of Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program. She is based at Bishkek, Kyrgyz Republic. Madina's journey takes her from conference room to remote mountains, all in the name of conserving the majestic snow leopard and its habitat. And as Sharma sir already mentioned, she is also an avid golfer and lending her expertise to coach amateur expert golfers in her country. So let us all welcome Ms. Madina, who has flew from Kyrgyz Republic to India for this program.
Ladies and gentlemen, namaste. मेरा नाम मदीना है और मैं किर्गिस्तान में रहती हूँ. Today I'm going to talk about how someone doing this ends up doing this. Many years ago, a guest at a golf club commented that I look like a snow leopard, and I shrugged it off without giving it much thought. Who knows, my experience, skills, and enthusiasm would one day lead me to this fascinating world of conserving this majestic species through what I know best is the communicating, networking, and organizing events. Here I am in front of all the wonderful people, sharing my short journey from the desk manager in the service sector to the magical realm of the snow leopard conservation. I started my career with a simple job as desk manager at the golf club. Everything seems ordinary. Receiving calls, meeting visitors, organizing tournaments, and maintaining order in the office, and playing the game, which is I felt in love with. I enjoy communicating with the people and management, but I always felt that my calling was somewhere else. I wanted to learn, explore, travel, and do something meaningful. As luck would have it, I got the meat costume, who had no clue how to swing a club, but was keen to learn the game. He mentioned about the snow leopards in Kyrgyzstan and the work he did, and I did hate him then, thinking what a cool job working on these beautiful species. It also reminds me, no, it's okay. What a cool job working on these beautiful species. It also reminds me the other guest who was like me, the snow leopard. People often ask what it takes to conserve snow leopards. Let me show the few snippets of what I get to do. I get help organizing meetings between ministers and government officials from multiple countries and global experts. To this, where we can interviewing local community members to understand human-wildlife conflict. Here, we are translating conversation between VIPs such as Mr. Keshav Varma and Kyrgyz minister. Here, the days my work takes me to the mountain where snow leopard live either in the wild or rescue center. Snow leopard conservation also allows me to use my interest in jewelry and fashion to good use. Please allow to talk a little more about this. This product is like a piece of my soul, and I can tell you how proud I am being a part of it. Working on developing the design of snow leopard earrings, brooches, and pendants to commemorate 10 years of this unique alliance of 12 countries was not just a chore, it was my passion and inspiration. We ended up developing a design depicting the graceful snow leopard alongside the ethereal Seven Sister constellation. Symbolizing unity and universality, the design pays homage to the snow leopard as a species that transcends borders, reflecting the spirits of the global conservation efforts. The jewelry company agreed to pay 10% of every purchase of the silver ornaments towards the conservation of this amazing snow leopard. I get intrigued every day when I get to learn how complex and important biodiversity conservation is, how climate change, habitat loss, illegal wildlife trade are not just abstract concepts, but real challenges our world is facing on a daily basis. When the president of Kyrgyzstan recognized the snow leopard as a national symbol on December 2023, I realized that our work is not only important to us, but it also matters to the whole country. I was proud that we are affecting change, we are creating hope for this amazing creature and for our planet as a whole. I urge you to think of snow leopard every time you drink water, breathe the clean air, eat grain, or use the herbal produce. The snow leopard is the guardian of the snow mountains where these originate. आपके समय के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आपका दिन शुभ हो.
So now I would give an introduction of about third speaker for today's evening, Shri Keshav Verma. Shri Keshav Verma has an exceptional and pioneering record of achievement as a distinguished member of Indian Administrative Service. He has served as an Industries Commissioner of Gujarat State. During his tenure, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation received an AASO credit rating and issued the Ahmedabad City Bond, the first municipal bond issued in South Asia without central or state government guarantees. Shri Verma subsequently joined the World Bank and served there for more than 16 years in various leadership roles. He is also a part of important think tank in urban planning policy and is well networked with renowned global universities for the same. Shri Verma is the advisor to the government of Uttar Pradesh as well as Jammu and Kashmir and the chairman of Sabarmati Riverfront Development Corporation, Ahmedabad. He is also chairman of high-level committee on urban planning set up by the government of India. Shri Verma is a passionate conservationist, which anyways we just saw, and who has also convinced and mobilized a broad coalition of partners in the World Bank for conservation of tigers and snow leopards in the wild with the Global Tiger Initiative, which covers 20 range countries. So please, Mr. Verma, I would like to request you to address us and share your insights.
Good evening. मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है आज कि स्नो लेपर्ड जो कि हिमालयस के बहुत ही हाइट्स पे रहते हैं उनके बारे में आके मैं अहमदाबाद में बात कर रहा हूँ. मैंने सोचा आप लोग गर्मी ज़्यादा लग रही होगी. आज when we were driving in it was 38 degrees. मैंने गर्मी लग रही है तो थोड़ा सी ठंडी हवा आएगी तो आप लोगों को अच्छा महसूस करेंगे आप लोग सब. But apart from that, I have my dear colleagues, Batuk Bhai, thank you, NK and everybody who has made it all possible. But I have my dear colleague Kaustubh Sharma and Madina. इन्होंने बड़ा ही डिटेल प्रेजेंटेशन किया मगर उन्होंने ये नहीं बताया कितना इनको मज़ा आता है सब करने में. दे हैव अ गुड टाइम. देखिए दुनिया की सबसे खूबसूरत जगह पे जहाँ पानी बिल्कुल ब्लू वाटर्स एंड ब्लू स्काईज और वहाँ आप आराम से कैंप कर रहे हैं और इन्होंने एक्सक्यूज़ बना रखा है स्नो लेपर्ड का. तो बहुत अच्छी दुनिया है. रियली आई वांट टू कन्वे दैट टू यू. इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल वर्ल्ड विच वी मस्ट एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स conserve and be very seriously concerned about. और ख़ास करके I actually grew up also in the Kumaon region. हमारे फादर भी सिविल सर्विस में थे तो उस ज़माने में लखनऊ से एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन नैनीताल जाता था. तो we used to we grew up in जिम कॉर्बेट की सारी किताबें पढ़ के वो सारी चीज़ उस तरीके से. तो we grew up in that. और तब महसूस होने लगा कि क्या किस बारे में बात हो रही. इट्स नॉट जस्ट अबाउट सम काइंड ऑफ ए स्पीशीज़ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. इट्स ए लाइफ स्टाइल. it's a passion, it's also spirituality. There is a cosmic force that works. और मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाह रहा हूँ कुछ ख़ास चीज़ें इस बारे में कि कैसे ज़िंदगी में कॉस्मिक एक्सपीरियंसेस चीज़ों को शेप करते हैं. देखिए, मैं वर्ल्ड बैंक में आई वॉज डायरेक्टर अर्बन डेवलपमेंट फॉर ईस्ट एशिया एंड पैसिफिक, और मैं अब डायरेक्टर अर्बन डेवलपमेंट भी वर्ल्ड बैंक में बना बिकॉज ऑफ अहमदाबाद. ये तो आपको पता है ना. यहाँ इतना अच्छा आप लोगों का सपोर्ट रहा, इतना काम हुआ, इतना ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ अहमदाबाद में कि भाई वर्ल्ड बैंक ने कहा कि यहाँ के एक कोई एम्बेसडर की ज़रूरत है वहाँ. सो देन आई वॉज देयर फॉर ओवर 16 years. आई स्टिल कंटिन्यू टू बी देयर. बट इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है, एक दिन आई वॉज सिटिंग, यू नो, आई एम वेरी इंटरेस्टेड इन कंजर्वेशन. एक दिन मैं ऐसे ही बैठा था वहाँ पर, गेटिंग बोर्ड इन चाइना बिकॉज आई वॉज एक्चुअली पोस्टेड टू चाइना. आई डिडंट क्वाइट फील रियली गुड बिकॉज इट्स अ वेरी ग्लिट्जी प्लेस. बहुत ही ज़्यादा डेवलप्ड जगह थी. दी चाइना वर्ल्ड होटल 6 स्टार, उसमें हमारा ऑफिस एंड ऑल दैट. तो मुझे मज़ा नहीं आ रहा. तो मैं अखबार पढ़ रहा, देखा उसमें लिखा कि टाइगर्स आर एक्चुअली स्टार्विंग इन अ प्रोविंस ऑफ चाइना नोन एज लियोनिंग. तो मैंने कहा भाई चाइना में तो सारे टाइगर्स एक्सटिंक्ट हो गए, यहाँ स्टार्व कौन से टाइगर्स कर रहे हैं. तो मैंने पूछा, एक डिफिट के डायरेक्टर थे, उनसे शाम को वी आर गोइंग टू हैव अ ड्रिंक. वी कैन टॉक अबाउट ड्रिंक्स, नॉट हैव देम, बट वी आर गोइंग टू हैव अ ड्रिंक विद द डिफिट गाय. एंड आई सेड ये क्या चक्कर क्या है यार, कौन से टाइगर्स हैं ये. उनने कहा ये टाइगर्स हैं टाइगर फार्म्स के. चाइना में करीब 8,000 से 9,000 टाइगर्स टाइगर फार्म्स में, जिनको जिस तरीके से हम चिकन फार्म्स में रखते हैं उस तरीके से यूज़ किया जाता है. दे कल्ड, दे मेक टाइगर वाइन्स आउट ऑफ इट, उसकी सारी चीज़ें, उसके सारे पार्ट्स काट काट के. लेकिन उसका एक और असर होता है, बट कंटिन्यूज टू क्रिएट डिमांड फॉर टाइगर रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट्स. So I was quite surprised, and then I came here and I was with my daughter. She was doing her dissertation on Maldharis in Gir. She was at Cambridge and हम लोग dissertation वो कर रही थी. मैंने कहा चलो मैं भी चलता हूँ. उस ज़माने में एक और ख़बर ये आई कि पन्ना में और सरिस्का में टाइगर सब गायब हो गए. दिस इज़ 2006 टू. तो हम लोगों ने क्या किया है कि एक प्रेजेंटेशन बनाया. देखिए, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कैसे ज़िंदगी के एक्सीडेंट्स शेप करते हैं चीज़ों को. तो हमने एक प्रेजेंटेशन बनाया कि टाइगर क्राइसिस इन इंडिया, एंड आई इन द वर्ल्ड बैंक ऑन अ फ्राइडे आफ्टरनून ऑन एक्सटेंडेड वीकेंड वी प्रेजेंटेड इट. ऑलमोस्ट 300 पीपल टर्न्ड अप इन द वर्ल्ड बैंक, जिसमें करीब 25-30 इंडियन थे और सब फॉरेनर्स आए. तो प्रेजेंटेशन था. खैर प्रेजेंटेशन हो गया, ख़त्म हो गई बात. 15 दिन के बाद देखिए क्या होता है. एक माई वाइस प्रेसिडेंट कॉल्ड, ही सेड कम क्विकली टू माई ऑफिस. तो आई वेंट देयर. आई सेड व्हाट हैपेंड, एंड देयर वाज दिस प्रेजेंटेशन, द हार्ड कॉपी ऑफ द प्रेजेंटेशन देयर, जिस पे प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बैंक रॉबर्ट ज़ेलिक हैड रिटन, दिस इज़ वेरी सीरियस, आई वांट टू हेल्प, कैन आई. एंड दैट ट्रिगर्ड, यू नो, किसी ने उनको जाके हार्ड कॉपी पकड़ा दी, उस पर उन्होंने लिखा, एंड ही देन द प्रोसेस स्टार्टेड एंड ही सेड लॉन्च अ ग्लोबल टाइगर इनिशिएटिव. आप इसको करिए एंड वर्ल्ड बैंक विल सपोर्ट इट. एंड वी लॉन्च्ड इन 2008 द ग्लोबल टाइगर इनिशिएटिव, एंड इट वेंट, एंड वी देयर आर 13 टाइगर रेंज कंट्रीज. एंड उस ज़माने में सिर्फ टाइगर की संख्या 3,200 थी. इंडिया में 1,411 टाइगर थे सिर्फ. We launched it, and countries started coming together because World Bank के साथ क्या था कि instead of NGOs running the programs, we encourage the countries run the program and develop their national tiger recovery programs and all that. तो वो लॉन्च किया 2008 में. एक दिन 2008 के ऑटम में मेरे पास फ़ोन आया प्रेसिडेंट का कि मैं भाई देखिए मॉस्को जा रहा हूँ, एंड देयर इज़ द G7 मीटिंग. देखिए एक्सीडेंट्स कैसे हो रहे हैं. एक ये हार्ड कॉपी का कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बैंक गॉट इन्वॉल्व. देन उन्होंने कहा मैं मॉस्को जा रहा हूँ, वो G7 की मीटिंग है, आपको कुछ कहना है? तो मैंने कहा ऑफ कोर्स कहना है कि भाई आप पुतिन साहब से भी होंगे उस मीटिंग में. पुतिन वॉज प्राइम मिनिस्टर दैट टाइम एंड आई सेड यू नो ही इज़ अ ग्रेट वाइल्ड लाइफर, तो आप इनसे बात करिए. तो थे भाई क्या बात करें? हमने कहा आप समिट की बात कीजिए कि टाइगर समिट होना चाहिए. ये गए वहाँ पर, क्या बात हुई? तो उनके जो चीफ ऑफ स्टाफ थे नोमान मिर्ज़ा, he called me 2 days later. He said, Keshav, I want to tell you something very interesting that happened. So evidently उस मीटिंग में, G7 की मीटिंग में, इकोनॉमी वॉज बीइंग डिस्कस्ड. एंड उसमें थोड़ा सा जब लल हुआ तो हमारे प्रेसिडेंट जेलिक ने उनको कहा, आई डोंट नो वेदर आई हैव टोल्ड यू दैट स्टोरी. जेलिक टोल्ड हिम कि भाई वी हैव लॉन्च्ड अ ग्लोबल टाइगर इनिशिएटिव, पुतिन को. तो जो इंटरप्रेटर था उसने उसको ट्रांसलेट किया कि दिस इज़ अबाउट टाइगर इकोनॉमीज़. समझे आप? वो इकोनॉमी की मीटिंग हो रही है, उसके बीच में यू नो उन्होंने एक बात कह दी टाइगर्स की, तो उनके समझी में यह है कि उस ज़माने में एक यू नो ईस्ट एशिया की टाइगर इकोनॉमीज़ एंड उसकी बात हो रही थी. सो ही and our country director was sitting behind. He was also understood Russian. So he said, no, he's not talking about tiger economies. He's talking about tigers. So Putin turned to him and turned to everybody else. Said, gentlemen, 5 minutes break. This is what Numan Mirza told me what happened. And he took Zelik on one side. And he said, क्या कर रहे हैं आप? तो उन्होंने कहा था हमने ग्लोबल टाइगर इनिशिएटिव, देयर इज अ ह्यूज क्राइसिस गोइंग ऑन, वी हैव लॉन्च्ड इट एंड द वर्ल्ड बैंक हैज कम इनटू इट. ही सेड अरे सो आई वांट टू बी अ पार्टनर इन दिस. एंड पुतिन एंड मिस्टर जेलिक partnered the first international tiger summit in St. Petersburg in 2010. And that came out with a very strong St. Petersburg declaration, and we could, because there was so much of awareness and other thing, we raised $270 million for tiger conservation at that time. And the whole thing was Smithsonian and GEF and World Bank. But बहुत बज़ हो गया पूरी दुनिया में. वो बात ख़त्म हो गई 2010 में. मैं इनकी बात पे आ रहा हूँ. तो एक दिन 2011 में ना, 2011 में अगेन द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बैंक कॉल्ड मी अप. ये थे केशव कम टू द ऑफिस, आई वेंट देयर. अच्छा, जेलिक की पर्सनैलिटी ऐसी है, देखिए कंजर्वेशन क्या करता है लोगों को, वाइल्ड लाइफ क्या करती. जेलिक इज़ अ कट एंड ड्राई पर्सन. ही इज़ द काइंड ऑफ गाय नेवर लाफ सेल्डम स्माइल काइंड ऑफ गाय. वो होता ही नहीं है, उनको मुस्कुराहट आती नहीं चेहरे में. एंड लोग डरते थे उनसे बात करने में वर्ल्ड बैंक में. मगर जहाँ टाइगर की बात आई खिल जाते थे एकदम. तो साहब मैं गया, मैंने क्या हुआ कि देखिए चिट्ठी. तो लेटर हैड कम फ्रॉम हिज एक्सेलेंसी यतमबाएव, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ किर्गिस्तान, कि भाई आपने ग्लोबल टाइगर इनिशिएटिव टाइगर्स के लिए किया है और उस पर समिट हुआ है, सब हुआ. आप अब एक हमारा स्नो लेपर्ड को भी ले लीजिए इसमें, और आप ऐसे इनिशिएटिव करिए. अच्छा देखिए, जो हमारे ख़ास एक बैठे बुद्धिमान लोग वहाँ पर, तो व्हेन द लेटर हैड कम, द प्रेसिडेंट of ECA, which is East Asia, had written there is no comparative advantage for the World Bank to get into snow leopard conservation. तो उन्होंने कहा ये देखिए चिट्ठी लिख के भेजी है उन्होंने. तो मैंने कहा साहब प्रेसिडेंट की चिट्ठी है, वी हैव टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू इट. ही सर अच्छा आप जाइए. तो मैं गया और फिर उस माहौल में कोस्तब मिले, फिर इनके एक सीनियर कॉलीग हैं चारू, ग्रेट all conservationist, and the global snow leopard environment protection program got launched on the same lines as global tiger initiative, and covering 20 countries now. 5 countries are overlapping. वो शुरू हो गया. ऐसी ऐसी चीज़ें ज़िंदगी में होती जाती हैं कि पता नहीं चलता। और मैंने कई बार ये महसूस किया है कि ये जो दीज आर, हम समझते हैं एनिमल्स हैं, बट दे आर टेलिंग अस समथिंग। व्हेन यू आर आउट देयर लुकिंग एट अ टाइगर, मैंने अभी तक स्नो लेपर्ड दिखाया नहीं मुझे अभी तक मगर आप देखें तो आपको ये महसूस होता है कि देयर इज सर्टन अमाउंट ऑफ डिविनिटी in while you actually experience a tiger or a snow leopard and everything. अजीब सा महसूस होता है। जो लोग भी हैं इसमें, जब पवन बैठे हैं, ये जाके देखा है टाइगर, वो स्नो लेपर्ड 14 दिन रहे, एक दिन में दिखा। तो जो लोग इसमें काम भी कर रहे हैं वो लोग भी बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग लोग हैं। ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग ज़िंदगी है कि हम लोग बैठे बैठे, मैं भी देखिए, मैं दुनिया भर के, मैं एम चेयरमैन हूँ साबरमती रिवर फ्रंट। तो खैर एक उसको रिवर फ्रंट को मेंटेन करना है, उसका इकोसिस्टम मेंटेन करना है। उसके बाद एम प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ, आई एम एडवाइज़र टू उत्तर प्रदेश गवर्नमेंट, एंड यू नो वर्किंग विद मिस्टर तो टाइगर जैसे ही, यू नो, योगी जी, उनके साथ काम करना, तो उनको कि भाई वो कुकरेल नदी पे आपको हमको एडवाइस देनी। तो मैंने कुकरेल पे तो 1400 वो हैं एनक्रोचमेंट, इसे नहीं वो हटा देंगे 3 महीने में, आप अपना काम शुरू कीजिए। दैट काइंड ऑफ गाय, यू नो, उनके साथ अब बुंदेलखंड में वो शुरू हो गए। एंड उसके बाद जम्मू कश्मीर में मैंने आप लोग को दिखाया था अथर को एक बार बुला के, व्हाट ऑल हैज हैपेंड, एंड दैट इज ऑफ कोर्स वॉट एवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर डज। उन्होंने अभी एक इंटरनेशनल बिग कैट्स अलायंस लॉन्च की है, दैट, एंड ही इज गिवन 150 crores फॉर इट। इट कवर्स 97 countries and it covers all the big cats of the world, whether it's lions, tigers, jaguars, pumas, leopard, snow leopard, कोई छोड़ रहा हूँ मैं? कोई नहीं, तो ये सारे उसको कवर करते हैं। सो वो बिग कैट अलायंस इज ऑल्सो गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी मेजर इशू। देखिए, ये मैं खुद भी कहता हूँ, देखिए मैं IAS में रहा हूँ, आई हैव हेल्ड पोजीशंस विच वर नॉट कंजर्वेशन रिलेटेड पोजीशंस, मगर साहब मज़ा इसमें आता है कंजर्वेशन में। वो आप लोगों को इस चीज़ को महसूस करना चाहिए। हम लोग की ज़िंदगी बड़ी रूटीन हो जाती है। अब ये बैठे हैं बेचारे शाश्वत साहब, पढ़ाते रहते हैं, हमको भी पढ़ाते रहते हैं सेफ्ट में। अब ये इनको अगर ये बाहर जाएं, या समीर सिन्हा नए घर बना रहे हैं, ये लोग बाहर निकलें तो इनको महसूस होगा कि एक और भी दुनिया है, और वो उसको किसी तरीके से बचाना, यू नो, सेविंग इट is the issue. Now the good part is Ahmedabad has a lot of people who are interested into trekking. एक हमारे दोस्त बैठे हैं संजय जोशी, वो अभी 5 तारीख को फिर जा रहे हैं। अभी क्या बिजनेस करते हैं मुझे पता नहीं, बट ही इज़ मोस्टली इन दीज माउंटेन्स, सो जा रहे हैं। तो ये एक बहुत खूबसूरत दुनिया है, बिल्कुल अलग महसूस होता है जाके, एकदम खुल जाता है दिल। और मुझे खुद, मैं जा रहा हूँ अभी, हम लोग ग्रुप इज़ गोइंग, आई एम नॉट सेइंग हु ऑल, बट वी आर गोइंग टू कॉर्बेट। अब इतना जो भी है, थोड़े थोड़े कोशिश करते रहना चाहिए, बिकॉज यू नो वी आर ब्लेस्ड इन इंडिया बाय 2-3 factors. We have one of the richest biodiversity in the world, and बायोडाइवर्सिटी goes from Himalayas to coastal areas, पूरा का पूरा हमारा सबसे खास। दूसरी खास बात यह है कि वी बिलीव इन को अकरेंस, हम रहते हैं टाइगर्स के साथ। अब ये जो हैं कोस्तव, इनके घर के 3 किलोमीटर पे भोपाल में टाइगर घूम रहे हैं। अगर एक बेचारा ब्रूनो बेयर हैड एक्चुअली ड्रिफ्टेड इनटू जर्मनी की सारी पुलिस ने उनको दौड़ा गोली मार दी। एक आया था वहाँ पर, यू नो, इन 2005 और 2006 दे शॉट इट डाउन। nobody has the guts or has the resilience to live. आज ये एक बहुत ख़ास चीज़ हो रही है. हम लोग इसमें एक चीज़ कोशिश कर रहे हैं जो हमारी प्लानिंग हो रही है. वी आर लुकिंग एट टाइगर टाउन्स. वी आर सेइंग कि जो ये शहर हैं, थोड़ी सी म्यूज़िक आ रही है अच्छी. देखिए, जो लोग कंजर्वेशन में हैं वो अपने सेल फोन्स को अलग रखते हैं बेचारे. आदत आजकल तो वैसे बड़ा मुश्किल हो रहा है, लोग आंख मिलाना ही भूल गए. अभी जैसे महाजन साहब मुझसे बात करेंगे तो वो देखते रहेंगे, हाँ सर कैसे हैं, इतना वो देखते रहेंगे. अच्छा ठीक है सर. फिर तो इस तरीके की हो गई है दुनिया. कर्नल साहब भी यही करते हैं वैसे, कर्नल खक्कर. सो व्हाट वाज आई सेइंग? हाँ, सो देखिए क्या डिस्ट्रैक्शन होता है. सो हमने ये सोचा कि ये जो कोअकरेंस हो रही है, बिकॉज देयर इज टाइगर्स इंडिया में बहुत बढ़ गए हैं. वी आर हाउ मेनी 3000 समथिंग ना, 3700 समथिंग. एंड हमारा हैबिटेट कम होता जा रहा है. यही चीज़ जो इन्होंने अपना थोड़ा लिहाज रखा है इस चीज़ को कहने का. हमारा स्नो लेपर्ड का भी हैबिटेट इज अंडर ट्रिमेंडस स्ट्रेस. There are about 300 mastiff, Tibetan mastiffs, which are in Hemis as well as in Sikkim. वो अलग एक फेरल वो होके वो कर रहे हैं. Pastures have been overgrazed. बाहर के लोग अंदर घुस रहे हैं. टूरिज़्म, बड़ी बड़ी सड़कें, सारी चीज़ें. तो हम लोगों ने कहा कि when we looking at planning and as chairman of high level committee, हमने कहा भाई I went to रामनगर. आप लोग गए होंगे रामनगर, कॉर्बेट नेशनल पार्क के अंदर जाने का मैं बड़ा हुआ था वहाँ पर. चारों तरफ वो बना दिए उन्होंने जो रिसोर्ट्स, चारों तरफ. तो अगर कोसी में या रामगंगा में कोई जानवर पानी पीने जाने की कोशिश करे तो नहीं जा सकता है. अभी एक तरफ कोसी को बंद कर दिया और अब एक क्यारी की तरफ से रामगंगा को बंद कर दिया. अच्छा, क्या किस तरीके की इंसेंसिटिविटी है, किस तरीके के दिलों में क्या है कि उसको सारा का सारा बंद कर. तो हमने कहा भाई ये इकोलॉजिकली फ्रेजाइल एरियाज़ हैं, इसकी प्लानिंग ज़रा अलग तरीक़े से होनी चाहिए. इसकी प्लानिंग इस तरीके से हो कि दिस अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड अर्बनाइजेशन शुड नॉट एक्चुअली किल द बायोडाइवर्सिटी ऑफ द हाई माउंटेन्स एज वेल एज ऑफ द प्लेन्स. इस पर सोचने की ज़रूरत है. मैं एक मजाकिया बात कहूँगा. आई वॉज एक्चुअली टॉकिंग टू दीज पीपल इन मॉन्टगोमरी काउंटी इन DC रिसेंटली. मैं पूछ रहा था बिकॉज आई एम ऑल्सो हेडिंग दिस अर्बन प्लानिंग. मैंने कहा भाई ये जो डेवलपर्स हैं उनको आप ज़मीन या आपके पास प्रपोजल लेके आते हैं तो आप क्या देखते हैं? तो उन्होंने कहा साहब ऐसा है, हम लोग ये देखते हैं कि वो किस तरीके से लैंडस्केपिंग करेंगे, कितना ग्रीन करेंगे, कितना क्या करेंगे. मैंने कहा अच्छा, तो बड़ी अच्छी बात है. फिर देन आई लिव इन गुड़गांव. वहाँ डेवलपर का काम, जिस दिन वो लेके आएगा आपको परमिशन मिली, पहले जाके वो सारे पेड़ काट देगा. उसके बाद वो 3 पेड़ लगाएगा उसमें. और सारे अभी राइट वेयर आई एम स्टेइंग, यहाँ पर एक पैच ऑफ फॉरेस्ट सा था. I used to hear the partridge and the peacocks and everything in Gurgaon. And I passed, एक भी पेड़ छोड़ा, सारे काट दिए मशीन से. तो आई रिपोर्टेड टू दी सुप्रीम कोर्ट की कमेटी है ना वो उसकी, तो उन्होंने जल्दी पता चलाया फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ने उनको परमिशन दे रखी थी. अरे बहुत खूब. अब करेंगे क्या कि अच्छा आपने 500 पेड़ पुराने 20 साल 25 साल 30 साल पुराने काट दिए, अब आप लगा दीजिए 200 पेड़ और, ख़त्म कहानी. So why we talking about all this here among you? We are talking because all of us have to feel connected. and have to realize there's very little awareness about snow leopards. I did a survey with wives of my colleagues of my batch that how many snow leopards are in. That I did about 5-6 years ago. So one lady said that there are 30,000 snow leopards. Somebody said there are 25. They were just trying to guess. Nobody knew. So in the remote mountains, which are I think one of the most beautiful things that ever Earth has given us. We have no idea what's going on there. The people are beautiful, the mountains are beautiful, the species is beautiful. There is a picture आपने देखी होगी of the golden eagle in the snow. मेरे हाथ पे है golden eagle. I mean, it's an amazing bird. And इसको feel करना है, it leaves 2 years of vibrations inside your body. तो आप लोगों से मेरी दरख्वास्त है, एक तो आप you get organized to support conservation. Ahmedabad should emerge as a conservation capital because यहाँ के city fathers भी, यहाँ के business people, यहाँ के professionals सब लोग, we should get organized to see what can we do for conservation. It's not about money really. I run the Global Tiger Initiative. I have never raised $1. I put in my own money into it. President Zelik, who is the president, he puts in money into it. I never raised any money. But there is a need for conservation. The gaps are huge. Just Global Tiger Recovery Program needs $130 million a year. I don't know what is the requirement of Costa in terms of gap analysis of 12 countries. कितना है? $190 million. So, बातें हम इतनी बड़ी बड़ी, लखनऊ में हम लोग कहते हैं बातें बनाते हैं, बातें दुनिया में बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बनाते हैं. But when it comes to the front line and the resources, there is a huge issue. But private sector can also help in actually improving the management practices. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है, because when you get the money, you don't know how to actually spend it. So ये चीज़ें, but देखिए ये जो एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट हैं और ख़ासकर मेरे जैसे वी आर व्हाट डू वी कॉल इंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़. हम लोग सब इंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़ हैं. कुछ दिनों में निकल जाएंगे, फिर वही सेल फोन और ये सब चीज़ें आ जाएंगी. तो आप लोग यू गॉट टू चेंज द वे you think, you practice, you live and develop those kind of sensitivities. And snow leopard तो इतना खूबसूरत, there is not a single instance of a snow leopard attacking a human being. आज तक कुछ नहीं हुआ. And do you know, incidentally, Sanjay, snow leopard is related to which big cat? Tell me. क्या सर नहीं हिला सकते हैं? बताइए बताइए. So you'll be surprised that a snow leopard is the closest relative to a tiger and not to a leopard. So it's a very unique species, and as Costa has said, there are no subspecies, no? There are no subspecies. Tigers have 5 or 6 subspecies. कोई जावन टाइगर है, कोई रॉयल बंगाल टाइगर है, कोई साउथ चाइना टाइगर है और अमूर टाइगर्स हैं, सारी चीज़. यहाँ कोई सब स्पीशीज़ नहीं है बिकॉज देयर इज़ सो मच ऑफ जेनेटिक डिस्पर्शन दैट इज़ टेकिंग प्लेस. सो इट्स अ ग्रेट थिंग. और आप अपने माउंटेन्स के बारे में सीरियसली सोचिए. अक्रॉस देयर वाज दिस प्रेजेंटेशन, आई कांट फॉरगेट, द प्रेजेंटेशन वाज डन बाय दिस लेडी फ्रॉम इसीमोड, एंड शी सेड there are, in 12 range countries, there are 50,000 glaciers. 50,000 glaciers. Only 28 glaciers out of 50,000 have been studied. Only 28. ठीक है? India has 28 trees per capita. 28 trees per capita. China has 300. US has 700, Brazil, Canada and Russia have more than 8,000. do we realize the importance of trees? Our habitat, हमको सचमुच सोचना पड़ेगा, ये मजाक नहीं है कोई जो हम लोग यहाँ पर आके आप लोगों से बातें कर रहे हैं। आप लोगों के दिलों में दर्द और कंपैशन और सेंसिटिविटी क्रिएट करने के लिए बात कर रहे हैं। ये सबको सोचना चाहिए कि एक भी पेड़ कटे, वी शुड फील डिमिनिश्ड कि एक पेड़ कट गया। व्हेन आई टॉक टू योगी आदित्यनाथ कि सर आपको बुंदेलखंड में 100 साल के पुराने पेड़ हैं, इसे क्या करना है? मैंने कहा 100 साल के पुराने पेड़ को कटना नहीं चाहिए, हेरिटेज हो जाए। नेक्स्ट डे जियो हो गया, कोई भी 100 साल से पुराना पेड़ विल बी कंसिडर्ड ए हेरिटेज, विल नॉट बी कट। कितने पेड़ लगाए जाएंगे? 22 करोड़ पेड़ लगाने हैं जितने लोग हैं। पर सो हम लोगों को, और ख़ास करके गुजरात में भी हम लोगों को सोचना है, बिकॉज वी हैव लेस ट्रीज in Gujarat, even against the national capita, whatever it is. So we have to think conservation very seriously. We have to bring conservation into planning. हमारे 39 लेक्स थे, घटा के 19 छोड़ दिए। अहमदाबाद में से 39 लेक्स थे, 19 छोड़ दिया। अब क्या कहते हैं, पानी भर रहा है। पानी तो भरेगा जब उसके पार्ट के बना दिया उसके ऊपर, है ना? तो सारी चीज़ों को इसको फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ एनवायरमेंटल सेंसिटिविटी, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन फॉर टिल 2047, एंड आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज पुशिंग दिस ऑल्सो। टिल 2047 वी हैव टू थिंक अबाउट, we can create economically vibrant cities, but we have to create ecologically sustainable cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the entire journey and inspiring all of us to delve into wildlife as well as environmental conservation initiatives. And with this, I would like to open the floor for question and answers. We can take 2-3 of them if there are any.
एक्चुअली जो इकोसिस्टम है, नेचर है, इट इज़ वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर आवर लाइफ। अभी आप देखिए जितनी माउंटेन्स है, केदार बद्री से लेके सब जगह टूरिज्म बना दिया। अर्बनाइजेशन इतना डेवलप करने लगे हैं लोग कि नेचर रहा ही नहीं। इन गुजरात thousands and thousands of tree have been cut, गांधीनगर ये सब बनाए हैं। तो आप जितने अर्बनाइजेशन बढ़ाओगे, टूरिज्म बढ़ाओगे, इकोसिस्टम को ख़त्म कर देगा। तो व्हाट शुड वी डू? कहीं एडजस्टमेंट होना चाहिए। इज इट राइट?
Yep.
पहला हेलो पहला क्वेश्चन आपने किया कैसे बिल्डिंग्स हेरिटेज और कैसे ट्रीज, ये तो आपको खुद इसको आंसर पता है आपको इसका? नहीं बिल्कुल पता है। अब पेड़ आपके सामने कट रहे हैं, अगर आप कुछ नहीं करेंगे तो मैं आपको इस चीज़ का कोई भी जवाब दूं। बट टू कम स्ट्रेट वी नीड टू डॉक्यूमेंट all heritage buildings, which is being done, I think. Ahmedabad is this thing. And we have to start getting very serious about mature trees. We can't cut mature trees without going through a process of that. So that is one question. आपके का जवाब ये है, आप भूटान को देखिए। भूटान is the best example of sustainable tourism. Sustainable quality tourism. अब मैं भूटान मैं जा रहा हूँ अभी 18 से 25 तक। वहाँ पर वहाँ के हिज मैजेस्टी द 4th किंग एंड नाउ द 5th किंग, दे आर सो कमिटेड टू क्वालिटी दिस थिंग डेवलपमेंट आइडियाज़। तो वहाँ पर हम लोग कर सकते हैं अगर ठीक से प्लानर्स और कॉन्जर्वेशनिस्ट इसको ठीक से समझें। एक तो हमें अपनी नॉलेज भी करनी पड़ेगी, हमारा डेटा भी बहुत ही स्कैंट है, हमको पता नहीं है कि क्या चीज़ कहाँ हो रही है, प्लानिंग हो रही है। इसको सोच के क्या भूटान इज एग्जाम्पल, उसको फॉलो कीजिए.
So we will take a last question from the gentleman in the center.
Thank you very much for enlightening us with the subject which was very elusive to us, especially Mr. Kaustubh. There are three things what I would like. One thing that if I want to go to do this, how I should proceed. Second thing that I would like to know about these cameras that you installed. That do they communicate with each other? How do they get the power supply, and how long they last? Because this is amazing that 40 cameras to install in these areas. This was something which was beyond my imagination. I knew about this. They used to have in Gir or some wildlife things, but this is something very unusual. And third thing is that how much the population has increased of these snow leopards in after your efforts.
Thank you, sir. These are extremely valuable questions. I'll go one by one. The first question you asked is how can we get there? So as a tourist, there are a few places you can visit in India. In Ladakh, we have very good community-based tourism going on in and around Hemis National Park. So there is Shang Valley, there is Rumbak Valley, there's Saspoche, Ulle, all these places are there. So you can look up tourism. One request in all of these tourism initiatives is, as Keshavji said, and as the gentleman mentioned, they can go wrong very easily. People can follow bad practices and make a great experience almost going illegally. So it's always a good idea to review where you're going, what practices they follow, whether these are ethical practices or not. And there are hundreds of resources out there which can help you. If nothing else, reach out to me. I'll let you know whether these practices are ethical or not. So that's number one. So in India, as I said, Ladakh and in Spiti in Himachal Pradesh, these are two places where there's a lot of tourism going on. Some are very well being done very well. Some are not being done in a very good way. So you will have to make that choice. We can always buy something produced the bad way and a good way. We would like to buy things done the right way. The second question about camera traps. These are truly, if I may say, the invention of the century. When I was studying in the Tiger Reserve, I was studying the animals. It used to be a film camera. You have to change film roll every day. The batteries would run out every day. I can assure you, if I had to do the same thing with snow leopards, I would have left my job in 15 days. I have no energy to climb up those mountains more than once in many, many months. So these cameras are very amazing devices. They have dual sensors where there is a heat sensor and there is a motion sensor. When both the sensors get triggered, they send a signal to the camera, take a picture. They have infrared LEDs for a flashlight, and the LEDs blink at a certain rate, so the camera shutter does not move, it just stays on, and because of the LEDs, it just creates that shutter. Because of the low, there's nothing mechanical in it, these cameras can last up to 6 months without having the need to change them. So once we set them, we almost forget them. There have been twice. Once a bear had just slapped a camera, it went into a river. We found that camera 2 years later in the river. We realized, oh, there's a camera out there. We picked it up and it was still working. So they're the amazing devices. Electronics has developed quite a bit. With one 6 or 8 GB memory card, it can take about 100,000 images. It just lasts forever. So that way, these are really, really valuable devices. They have really helped us understand how many there are, where they are, and a lot more about their behavior, which is why I keep saying that these are inventions of the century. Moving forward, things are developing dramatically. There are connected cameras which connect through a daisy chain. There are cameras which communicate through satellites, but these are still a bit, out there.
too much of an investment at this point in time to get the value out of it. Even today, one of our team member is on his way back from one of these remote mountains where I went with Pajero, and he's on his way back right now, having collected all the cameras, and we'll start working on them next week. I'm sorry, I forgot your third question. Oh, yes. So, very interestingly, there are parts of the world where the population has gone down, locally extinct. But then there are also parts where we either believed there were no snow leopards and we have found snow leopards. Communities or areas where we have, I wouldn't say we, but where conservationists are working, there has been systematic recovery in snow leopard population. Just in one site where we're working since 2008, we had about 12 or 13 snow leopards then. We have about 25, 30 snow leopards now. So the population has recovered, and sustainably so. So there are recoveries that can happen. I always say cats breed like rats. Only thing you need to do is you need to provide them the right protection. They shouldn't get poached or killed, and they should have enough food for them. Apart from that, they breed very fast. Snow leopards breed slowly because mothers have to take care of every set of cubs for 9 or 21 months. They can't have another set of cubs. They can't take care of 2 sets of cubs. So they miss 1 year. Tigers, on the other hand, if their cubs are dead, within the next 3 months, they'll have another set of cubs. In snow leopard, that kind of a replenishment doesn't happen. So it's much slower that way. So that's the only thing which is slower in case of snow leopards. But apart from that, they do recover fairly well.
एक चीज़ NK पटेल चले गए, वो कह रहे थे मुझसे कि वो एक काइंड ऑफ ब्रोशोर बनाना चाहेंगे जिसमें कंप्लीट डिटेल्स होंगी, किस जगह पे कितने स्नो लेपर्ड दिख रहे हैं, कितने ये हैं फैसिलिटीज़ हैं वहाँ की, कहाँ पर ये जगह है, सारी चीज़ें. एंड वो ब्रोशोर आप लोगों में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होगा. और आप लोग खूब अभी से कोशिश करिए, कम से कम 5 से 10 किलोमीटर वॉक करना शुरू करिए रोज़, और उसके बाद तैयारी करिए. तो आप लोगों सबको ब्रोशोर दिया जाएगा, हम लोग मॉनिटर करेंगे आप कितने लोग गए हैं वहाँ पर.
And now, before we move towards the end of the session, we would like to present a memento to all the 3 speakers who were present here today. So, we would like to invite Shri Divyesh Radia, past president of AMA, to present a memento to Dr. Kaustubh Sharma. I would now like to invite Shri Vikas Shah, Honorary Secretary of GICA, to present a memento to Ms. Madina. Now I would like to request Shri Bakul Desai, President of GICA, to provide a memento to Shri Keshav Verma. And who now invite Shri Vikas Shah, Honorary Secretary of GICA, to deliver vote of thanks.
I would like to thank today's our esteemed speaker Sri Keshav Verma, Ms. Madina, and Dr. Kaustubh Sharma. We are thankful for their kind acceptance of our invitation for the informative and interesting session on the conservation of snow leopard, the spirit of the mountains, and for their very useful inputs from their vast experience and knowledge. We can summarize snow leopards as the top predator in the food web, serve as an indicator of the health of the mountain ecosystem in which they live. I am also thankful to AMA and Sri N.K. Patel, Sun Builders. We are sure that the information and knowledge on the subject shared in this session will be very helpful to everyone present here, and we look forward for more such knowledge sharing sessions. I would also like to thank the audience for their presence and patience hearing. To keep getting information on similar such programs organized by GICA, I request you to follow social media pages of GICA on Facebook and Instagram to keep receiving updates of such other interesting sessions. Once again, I thank one and all present here. I would like to request all to join for dinner. Thank you.